I'm here on Hilarious Circle in southeast Huntington Beach. Behind me, believe it or not, is a house that serves as a landmark in punk rock music history in Huntington Beach. You'll learn about it on this edition of Hidden Huntington Beach. I'm Chris Epting. I'm a writer and a storyteller, the author of several books and many articles about Huntington Beach. And what I like best is uncovering history that you may not be familiar with. This is Hidden Huntington Beach. Back in the late 1970s, there was a musical movement that found its way to Orange County and to Huntington Beach in particular. The Southern California version of punk rock that stretched from backyard parties to local clubs, including Safari Sam's, which operated here in the same building where the International Surf Museum is today. As the years went on, many punk bands were either born here or performed here on a regular basis. The groundwork laid by bands helped set the stage for Huntington Beach as a major musical hotbed, which gets us to a band called The Crowd. Back in the 1970s, an Edison High School student named Jim Kaye co-founded a band called The Crowd. Caught up in the burgeoning Orange County punk rock scene that produced many great bands, The Crowd became a local favorite and played many a house party over the years. These days, Jim leads a calmer existence as a corporate executive, but the band still plays and he is more committed than ever to his musical roots. For people that don't know what Huntington Beach, what that music scene was like in the late 70s, early 80s, how do you describe that briefly and what it was like being there?
Well, so I went to Edison High School close by here in Huntington Beach, and in the 70s, when I was a freshman in 1974, there was a culture of house parties, much like, the movies you would see, Valley Girl, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, when everybody coming together, football players, surfers, stoners, you name it.
It was diverse.
Yeah, it was diverse, but you were having bands play, and they were playing songs you heard on the radio by Kiss or UFO or Led Zeppelin. So it was that, and there was a local band, Witchcraft, which Sandy West from the Runaways had played in. And I was lucky enough when a girl that we went to high school with named Jamie Seeley had a party, and the Runaways, before Sherry Curry was even the band, played at her party.
In Huntington?
In Huntington Beach, right on Magnolia, between Atlanta and Indianapolis. For me, all that music was coming in because we had the Golden Bear, this culture of house parties. So I think that culture of bands and live music always existed in the area. I wanted to be in a band. I played sports all growing up. I love sports, but by the time I got to high school, for me, I was kind of bored on sports, wanted to do something different. And that led to us starting a band called The New, which became The Crowd, when we actually, a guy named Peter Roach, a friend of ours from high school, was our singer. He changed out and Jim joined, and we became The Crowd. And that was 78.
Look at this album here, World Apart, Crowd record. I like it because kind of some history's going on here. You're at the pier. That's
Right.
the old pier, right? This is before the pier was redone.
Right.
And then on the back, of course, you're out there at the power plant.
Right.
I mean, you could go restage that today and it would probably look exactly the same.
Well, it's funny, we took a picture recently with our current lineup of The Crowd for a compilation record that came out on Hostage Records. Hostage Records, a local label here in Huntington Beach. And we took it from the other side, but of the power plant. I brought a couple things that you asked me about. So we talk about that culture of house parties. A bit faded, but kind of it's the classic Huntington Beach backyard party. We bought a lot of thrift store clothes, so I'm wearing a plaid shirt I probably bought for $1. But myself, Jim Decker, Tracy, Barry, Jay must be over here on this picture, but kids sitting on the wall. It was
Classic.
that summer fun, set up
Backyard.
a band, get a keg, have a great time. The original lineup of The Crowd, Barry Miranda, our drummer, Tracy on guitar, at Brookhurst Beach. This was after, I don't know what I'm doing there. I was being tough, apparently. I don't know, Jim, his hair comes to a point, and so is mine. I don't think that was a plan. This was after Beach Boulevard, but before A World Apart.
So you've brought a poster here that goes back to the original Safari Sam's. Tell us about this one.
So, in The Crowd, we stopped for a while between, 82 and 87. A lot of violence in the punk scene. A lot of things different were going on.
This is Sextet. It's not The Crowd.
That's right. It's another band we had with some guys from The Crowd, and my brother Jeff Kaye was in it. A guy named Chuck Morris. Safari Sam, which is now the International Surf Museum, was this super small, much almost like the akin to the Doll Hut in Anaheim, very small room that had live bands. And at the time, everybody would play there. And even, somewhat to me, bigger bands that you would think, wow, why would they play that small? It was a cool place to play. It was a great space. This, much later, but along with the Golden Bear earlier, were really a couple of those places that really helped stoke that Huntington Beach music scene.
The guitar next to you, Jim, that goes back to these early days of your musical life, right?
Yeah, I wish I'd had it for Beach Boulevard, but I didn't then. No, this I've had since, I think,
Beach
80.
Boulevard, of course, was the compilation
The compilation record that The Crowd on was really, we have a song, Modern Machine, that Tracy wrote, and that was on Roddy and the Rock Show, and really got us on K-Rock, started to make, broke the doors open for us. And there's a little riff I play. Whoa. A little part into the chorus, and while that's not unique, it was very unique at the time, and when you were to hear it, it's really stood out.
This guitar you would have played on stage back then?
Oh, yeah.
That would have been the guitar.
Well, I could only afford one at the time, so it was always the one I played. It stays in tune. If you look very closely, there's a J and a K scratched into it, but you'd never be able to see them, just very slightly in there. But the funny part is, so when you have one pickup, the only way that's rolling my volume knob up and down. That's why that decays there. Neck's never been broke, but you can see the wear. So
you would have played this at Safari Sam's, the Golden Bear, everywhere.
We only played the Golden Bear once, yeah. There, the Cuckoo's Nest, the Whiskey,
That's
the Roxy.
kind of cool. This guitar's been everywhere, and it's part of the
It's
journey.
2 years older than me, too. It's a 57. So. But this is, Flipside Magazine reporting on The Crowd and Huntington Beach back in 78 already.
Wow.
And, later, as punk began to happen here in Huntington Beach, and kids were getting into it and going to parties and dressing differently, and parents were worried.
Yeah, these headlines that it was the end of the world.
Yeah, that punks,
nuclear, right?
Peril or pesky persuasion. Police exaggerate youthful pranks. This guy's telling the truth more. Weird acts alarm HB homeowners. And for us as The Crowd, though, it was great publicity, obviously. And they talk about punk gangs. Well, I've lived in Huntington Beach 55 years. There was no, people will tell you different, but there was no punk gangs the way gangs are perceived today. It was all high school friends who hung out together, and when you put 5 or 6 guys together, they can get real tough sometimes. Right. Everyone sees their side of those things, but being someone who grew up with parents who were, an Army sergeant and a stay-home mom, and, not from a broken home, and having a reasonably decent life, the opportunity to play music and be involved in these things, and then end up being on the peripheral of this giant punk rock explosion in both Huntington Beach and Orange County was fantastic.
Why don't we go out, walk around, and visit some of the house party locations that sort of played a part in the punk rock movement in Huntington Beach? Cool?
Perfect, yeah.
Let's go. Jim, we're back here, as you mentioned. It kind of all starts for you going to Edison High School, 1970s. The band culture here, it's pretty heavy duty, right?
Right. So, yeah, I was a freshman in 1974, graduated in 77. And yeah, there was always house parties. I remember riding our bikes and pretending we drove to one time because we weren't old enough to drive. I think this became the punk high school before Huntington, even though I had graduated a year, when it all started to happen, I was already at Orange Coast College. But yeah, this was the punk high school, if you will. And actually The Crowd played a sock hop dance here at Edison High School after we had graduated. And I think when for the faculty, seeing kids with, black hair and red hair and blue hair, were really, it was, I think, shocking at the time, even though today it would be nothing more than you'd see at the mall or at Hot Topic. But at the time, it was like a whole different world, and it did open a lot of kids' eyes. And but the same way, the Beatles did in the '60s, and Led Zeppelin did with the Stones. All those cultural changes, just part of music to some degree. But here it was that surfing, skating, energy of the beach that really ignited with punk rock music, to kind of explode in that 79, 80, early 80s time.
This was the stomping ground here, but we're going to go from here right around the corner. There's a house. You're going to show me, show us where things used to happen in terms of house parties.
The singer in The Crowd, Jim Decker, his brother Jay Decker, who's our bass player, the original band, their parents live right around the corner here on Hilaria is the name of the street. So
let's head over there. Let's go check that house out.
That'd be great.
Okay, Jim, so this is for you. I mean, what's it like to be here now?
Well-
More than 40 years since the house parties that happened at this. We're in a hilarious circle, by the way.
It's a lot of memories here, lots of good times. It feels. I live in the neighborhood, so not that far away. But you know, like we were talking about, there was going to house parties when we were kids here in the neighborhood, and then here were the crowd and friends like ours of the Flyboys, etc. We'd play with two bands when Mr. and Mrs. Decker were gone.
In the backyard.
Yeah, no, we actually played inside the house usually because it was the best place to play. We'd set up right inside the living room actually. So, and there'd be 100 kids here on a Saturday night, you know, for a wild punk rock party.
What were the neighbors? What were the neighbors doing that was going on?
A few different things. A lot of the neighborhood kids were here, so because Jim, Jay, and Jeff, their brother, lived here and were a big part of the neighborhood, everyone knew who they were, so you couldn't really hide it, if you will. So it was sort of an unwritten rule that if nothing was sort of broke or damaged, then nothing got mentioned,
okay.
sort of thing. And so, but when the interesting thing was the parties were so popular that later Posh Boy, Robbie Fields, who put out the Beach Boulevard record and a lot of other great bands in our era, you know, he came here to one of the house parties and he went upstairs.
Right here?
Yeah, right here in the upstairs bedroom in the back. And the guys in the crowd were there, and he pulls out a Simpletone single, one of the bands he released records for, and put it on the bed and said, "Do you guys want to release a proper record?" And we're like, "Well, yeah, maybe." And we basically agreed to do so, but we never ended up actually releasing a single because the songs we recorded became the Beach Boulevard record, which was Robbie's idea. But on this street, we used to rehearse upstairs in Jay's bedroom too.
Right here.
Right here, rehearsals, shows,
So
parties.
for the crowd, for the band The Crowd, this is sort of like, this was the home base.
Yeah, Barry, our drummer, lived a few blocks over. Sometimes we practiced at his house. Tracy lived a few blocks that way. Sometimes we practiced at his house, but this was probably the place we practiced the most and definitely had the most parties for sure.
Amazing.
So, but yeah, right here in this quiet neighborhood, you never know that punk rock was frothing and about to explode here in South Orange County. So it was, you know, you never would know it, but it is right here with these beautiful roses where it all happened.
Jim, I want to thank you for bringing us over here again. And until somebody, you know, with firsthand information, that's where you learn about hidden Huntington Beach.
That's right.
By those who were here. So thank you very much. You were here, you lived it, the band came together here. If you've enjoyed this kind of hidden history, you can check out our Facebook page, which is Hidden Huntington Beach. Simply go there, join the group. You can learn a lot more. We have a ball doing this stuff, and we appreciate people like you, Jim, and others who contribute such great stories and memories. So thanks for watching.